thank you for taking the time to join us on a Friday afternoon to talk about diversity and inclusion and angel investing. Hopefully you can see my screens okay. We are going to record today's session, and by participating, you agree to that recording. And please know that we'll use it primarily for Desert Angel purposes and educational purposes. Just a couple of words about Desert Angels. Our vision is to be recognized as an innovative leader in early stage investing, and our mission is to generate meaningful returns for our members and early stage companies through investment connection and investor education, and most importantly, to stimulate and support the creation of a strong entrepreneurial economy here in Arizona. Thank you very much to our sponsors for your support and participation. I believe we'll have a couple of you on the call today, so thank you. All of our members are also members of the Angel Capital Association, which is the professional association for angel investors and groups. And we're a member of the Angel Syndication Network, which now represents over 50 angel groups, 1,500 angels, and over $1 billion in direct investments in companies. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We are going to use the chat box quite a bit today, so please, if you're on the call, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box, your name and your email. Any questions you have for the presenters, post those in the chat box. And as we go through each session today, we'll post some supporting material, including the presenter bios, in the chat box, along with some reference materials. We challenge you to find at least 3 connections or ideas to help advance your goal. Keep in mind that the purpose of today is to make this an interactive conversation. If you have any problems, please post those in the chat box. We love reactions, which if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen or the top of your Zoom screen, depending on what format you're using, you'll see a reactions option, and you're welcome to, throw applause, clap your hands, smile, however you want to react. And you'll see throughout the day, we've tried to accommodate a few coffee breaks. And I picked out a couple of coffee mugs in particular with Mike in mind. So you'll see those as we go through. Please mute yourself when you're not presenting. And if you can, and if you don't mind, turn your video on to make it as interactive as possible. But you don't have to. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce our first VIP speakers who are just going to welcome us for a couple of minutes to today's session. Tammy Mclead, who's president and CEO of the Flynn Foundation, James Golka, Jim, who's the chairman and managing director of Arizona Tech Investors, and Mike Sember, who is the chair of the screening panel and a board member for Desert Angels. You'll find their bios in the chat box. And Tammy, I'm going to invite you first, if you don't mind, to please say a few words and welcome our audience.
Great. Thank you, Joanne, and thanks everybody for being here today. I think this is really exciting, and I'm thrilled to be part of this event. I am Tammy Mclead from the Flynn Foundation, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Flynn, we are a statewide organization in Arizona, and the majority of our focus is in the biosciences. That means that we focus on cultivating a bioscience ecosystem, which is replete with bioscience entrepreneurs. And one of the critical things that we try to do for entrepreneurs is to help them find access to capital. And so this is one of the ways that we do that by cultivating more angel investors. We see that as a very important part of the ecosystem. And my real purpose in welcoming you is to give a huge shout out to my CFO at the Flynn Foundation, Stacy Tucker, who is behind the scenes and doing all the work. She is an avid participant in Desert Angels and in ATI. And really, if you're trying to make a connection today, Stacy's a great person for you to connect with. She does the work, I get to do the welcome. So it's great to see all of you here.
Thank you, Tammy. Jim?
Well, I'm Jim Golka. I lead Arizona Tech Investors. So Joanne and I do identical things, just in 2 different places. And part of what we do in Arizona is collaborate with each other. We don't have the rivalries of 2 universities. We have the notion that entrepreneurs, whether they're located in Tucson or Flagstaff or Phoenix or any of the other towns in the state, need as much capital as they can probably raise, and two groups are better than one. So in most instances, we collaborate on deals, and it makes for good business and good opportunities for potential angels, no matter where you're located. So this is just about collaboration is a good thing.
Thanks, Jim. And I'm not sure if he's here yet, but if Mike Sember, are you on the call? Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I'm here.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm actually on the agenda a couple times, so you'll get sick of hearing from me. So I'll keep this very brief. As Joanne indicated, I am a long-term member of the Desert Angels, I think 13 years. And I'm currently the chair of the screening panel. So it's my responsibility to review applications to the Desert Angels, decide which of those we're going to put in front of our screening panel. Our screening panel is a collaborative process. The number of our members participate every month. And then we take a couple of those forward to what we call our dinner meeting, which is our full membership meeting. And then we decide whether we're going to invest or not. So with that, I'll turn it back.
Thanks, Mike. And will we have a sneak view of our guest, of our super special guest, Ziggy, at any time today?
She's currently asleep, so we'll see.
Great. And also, I would like to give a shout out to our chairman, Jeffrey Lang. Hi, Jeff. If you would like to say hello, you're more than welcome.
Hello.
We're so glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us. All right, let me go back to my screen. So we have quite an agenda today. This is broken down into 3 parts. And again, it's meant to really be an interactive conversation. The first part looks at, the mystery behind what is an angel investor. And we're going to hear some stories and vignettes from investors in a few minutes, talking about their own motivations for why and how they became investors, and share some advice and tips they might have for those of you that are thinking about becoming angel investors. We'll then dig into how angel investing works, and this is a fun 2-part discussion. The first will be Desert Angels and Arizona tech investors talking about the process. The second part will be a conversation between a founder and her investor about what happens after the check gets written, which should be very fun and lively. At the top of each hour, we will be also posting copies of the materials, because I realize if you come in and out of the chat box, you may not have a chance to see it. The third part of today is the most important part. That's about the conversation of diversity and inclusion. We'll talk about some definitions. But I also thought it would be really interesting and intriguing to hear from our community partners on how they address diversity and inclusion in their initiatives that they're working on. And then we'll have some closing remarks. And we're also lucky to have a guest speaker here today, Eli Vlasquez, who will be introducing himself shortly, but he'll talk a little bit about what's happening at the Angel Capital Association. So we have a really content-rich day today. So starting in the first part, I wanted to provide just really quickly a few background pieces of information to help you as you're thinking about angel investing. So, the traditional definition is somebody who is a high net worth individual providing investment for startup companies, typically in exchange for ownership equity in the company. The definition has been amended December of last year to include a few other folks too: professional license, certifications and designations, knowledgeable employees tied to a fund, family clients, family offices, qualifying entities with more than $5 million in asset. And I think this is the beginning of a significant change in how angel investing works and is described as it moves forward. And they've also reserved the right to make some further changes to the definition. But you can see on the screen, there's a link. You can Google the SEC definition for accredited investor, or you can follow that link to read the changes that occurred at the end of last year. What I found interesting is that angel investors, and there are about 300,000 noted in the US, invest over $25 billion into 70,000 companies per year. And for those of you on the call in Tucson, if you were on the Innovation Cities call earlier today, you'll appreciate the impact of those numbers in particular and what's been happening in our region here. What's also interesting is that just over half of angel investors have experience as founders or CEOs of startup companies, which means they bring a lot more than just dollars to the conversation when they're investing in a startup company. And as a startup company, you should be asking for that too. It's fun to see that about a third of new angel investors are women. We would certainly like to see that number increase. And last year, based on a report by the, actually, this was, sorry, from 2018, from the Angel Capital Association, looking at a survey of angel groups, they found that 77.9% of angels are male, 87.6% are white, and the average starting age is 48. And I think that these are things that we can address and change. And I'll talk about why that's so important in a little bit. I also just want to touch on what the motivators are for why folks become angel investors. I hear, and this came up in conversation recently about, even one of our members talking about focus of ROI. And it is true that angel investors, for many of us, we look at this as an asset class and we're focused on getting a return on our investment. But there are a lot of other reasons why angel investors get involved and invest dollars that have to do with engagement and connecting with like-minded folks and connecting with family and pursuing opportunities to learn and to give back and to connect and to engage. And I'm hoping that as you hear from the individual investors today, some of those motivators and ideas might strike a chord with you if you're thinking about becoming an angel investor. There are many reasons to connect. And to that end, we are going to hear from 5 different angel investors, and I'm calling these vignettes. Each angel investor has about 5 minutes to tell us a little bit about how and why they became angel investors, how they make angel investment decisions, maybe provide some examples if you're game of best or worst case experiences, and then any advice that they have for new investors. And at the end of all of this, Eli Vlasquez will have some additional time to talk to us about the Angel Capital Association and the vision and the committee that he's working on. He's doing some really exciting and important work in this area that I'm anxious to hear about. Their presenter bios are in the chat box, and we'll go in the order that they appear on this screen. I will call on each of you. You'll have about 5 minutes. And if we run overtime, I'll gently nudge you. So I promise we won't shut everything down. I'll just gently nudge you. But in this order, they'll be presenting. I'm so excited. We have Alicia Robb, who is the CEO of Next Wave Impact. She was also the Hans Varian Award recipient last year for her innovative work as an angel investor with the Angel Capital Association. Kathy Lynn Pilata with Golden Seeds. She's based in Phoenix, and we're excited to have her here and talking about Golden Seeds too. Tammy Mclead, President and CEO of the Flynn Foundation. Aca, Principal with DBI Equity Partners. We also have a long-standing history with Aca. We love her. She did a lot of work with us, with the Desert Angels, many years ago. So super excited to see her here today. And then, of course, I mentioned Eli Vlasquez with Angel Capital Association and Investors of Color. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand it over to our presenters. And we'll start first with Alicia. If you would like to introduce yourself, you have 5 minutes. If you'd like to share your screen, you're more than welcome to.
Actually don't have a presentation. I think we're all kind of zoomed out. It's great to be here. I am a recent Tucson transplant. I split my time between Colorado and Arizona now. So when it gets really hot, I will be heading up to Colorado for the summer, and I'll be back probably in October and November. So I think we're gonna end up spending about 7 months here and 5 months in Colorado, which is a big shift for us. So I am not yet a member of Desert Angels, but I am looking forward to getting involved in the ecosystem. I just spent today's Friday, yesterday with Startup Tucson. So I'm super excited about all the great things going on in this ecosystem and excited to get involved. I've been living in Boulder, Colorado for the last 5 years, and just recently moved to Glenwood Springs on the western slope in Colorado. So 2 new places, and excited to get involved in both of them. I have been investing since I think around 2012 or 13 with the Jobs Act. I actually started investing when I was at the Kauffman Foundation. I'm actually an economist by training, and was doing research and policy around the Jobs Act and entrepreneurial finance, and got into crowdfunding and learned about angel investing. Most of my research has been on entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial finance. I used to work at the Federal Reserve Board of Governors in the Greenspan days. And so, I've been doing research and policy around finance, and then got involved first through crowdfunding and then as an angel investor. And then I was writing a book about the gender and racial gaps in entrepreneurial finance and why we see only 2.8% of venture capital going to women-led companies. And did some research on why we don't see more women and people of color going into early stage investing. And it's a lot of the same reasons why we don't see most accredited investors going into this asset class. They just don't know it. They don't understand, the process. They don't see deal flow. They don't know other angel investors. They don't know how, and they're risk averse to making that first large investment into one company. So I actually was still at the Kauffman Foundation when I pitched a learn by doing fund to them to get more women into angel investing by providing mentors and education and a diversified portfolio with an investment. And they said, great idea. It'll take us 5 years to get through the lawyers, just go do it. And so I did in the US and in Europe, and brought together 99 women into both of those funds. With the goal of getting them to be more actively engaged. So, part of the reason why we wanted to do this was to make people smarter investors. I think all of us have our horror stories of angel investments we did because we didn't know better. And if we could just prevent those first bad mistakes and have everyone successful from the get-go, more people would stay involved. So that was kind of the goal in getting these funds off the ground. But now I started a second fund, and that's now fully deployed. So now we are investing mainly as an angel network, Next Wave Impacts. And later in the day, I'll talk a little bit about the Founders of Color Showcase, which is what we're doing now to invest in more founders of color. All 15 of our portfolio companies are led by women and people of color. But we have an additional number of investments that we do through special purpose vehicles. And that's another way we see as getting more people involved in this asset class is allowing people to write smaller checks. So we have a minimum of 5K into our special purpose vehicles. And that way people aren't having to invest 25 or 50 or 100K in each company. So, so you definitely have learnings along the way, but I do it because I'm excited about getting involved in companies and supporting them and what they're doing and hopefully making a financial return on top of that. So great to be here and excited to hear from the rest.
All right, thank you. That was a great background. And as our presenters are speaking, if any of you have questions or would like to introduce yourselves, please feel free to use the chat box. Our next presenter is Lynn Pilata with Golden Seeds.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for including Joanne in this program. And Alicia, great to hear what you guys are working on. Very excited to hear it. I've kind of organized my story in a couple different ways. One is to kind of think about what I bring to the network and what I'm learning and some of the motivators that Joanne talked about. So I would say just to start, like most of the angel investors that I know, I'm a subject matter expert. So I have deep domain expertise and networks in very specific places. And that's one of the things that as I like to contribute to the expertise of the organization. I think it helps with some of those areas where you're trying not to make mistakes because you don't have enough knowledge about the types of industries or businesses. So quickly, in terms of my domain expertise, I've been a consultant my entire career. I've done mostly advising of manufacturers and service providers around sales and distribution channels. I do a lot of work in B2B. Currently doing a ton of work in building materials and construction industry. I also do some work in healthcare. We're working with some innovative docs in the dental space to develop new DSO models. So quite a different range of things that I work on. And I'm happy to contribute what I know where it makes sense to the network. But one of my motivators is that I actually want to be working in industries that I don't know. So I want to really tap the expertise of other angel investors to learn about businesses and sectors that I haven't had any exposure to. And I've had a great opportunity to do that. So I guess the second point is, like many angel investors, I did not have experience in the process of raising capital. So this part of the business is really new to me. I also have very limited experience in looking at early stage companies from an investor standpoint, not a consulting standpoint. So I find that I have to continually turn myself into a different lens to think about companies, not in terms of can I help them grow their revenue, but more about whether or not they're a business that I feel comfortable investing my money in with the idea of getting a return. So one of the things that's been great about working with an angel network, and in particular Golden Seeds, is that you have this opportunity to work with experienced angel investors at different stages of the deal flow process. And that has been invaluable. In addition to it being really helpful because the work is done in groups, it's also really energizing, I have to say. It's just a lot of energy comes from doing the work with other people that, again, are like-minded and or bring a set of experiences that you don't have. So a couple ways that happens for us in Golden Seeds is that, we have monthly office hours, and every month 4 to 6 of our members meet with prospective companies. We collectively decide kind of where they are in terms of their path. And we decide whether or not they're ready to bring forward the Golden Seeds. And if not, how can we help? So there's a lot of kind of collective decision-making on whether or not we've got a company that really we can start to bring forward for funding. We also, as Mike had said, we've got a process of doing screening and forums in 3 different markets. So when you participate in the forums, which is where the companies pitch, you have a chance to hear other investors talk about, what, or listen to what questions they're asking. They're asking questions of their own in terms of, is this a good investment? They're also kind of reacting as a group in terms of whether or not there's enough interest to move a company forward, and if there's not, why there isn't. So there's a lot of things that you learn just by participating in those kinds of things. And then this last year, I had a chance to be a co-lead in the due diligence process. Was something I had never done before, had a lot of team support to do that, and happy to say that we did fund this company at the beginning of this year. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention in terms of a new investor who doesn't have the experience is that Golden Seeds and other angel groups provide a lot of education that really help you along the way. So we have a 4-part curriculum that really is designed to help angel investors learn all aspects of the process. So there's an introductory module, there's one on due diligence, there's another one on cap tables and term sheets, and there's a 4th one on board governance and exits. And this last year, we took some time to also start to develop some industry-specific or sector-specific training. So now we have a life sciences one that has 5 parts, knowing how difficult and complex life sciences are. We have a consumer module, and we're working on a B2B module. So all of these are ways that you as an individual investor can start to learn more about both the business of angel investing as well as certain sectors that you may want to think about investing in. So another thing I wanted to just raise for a lot of angel investors, because it comes up all the time, is time commitment. So one of the things that, really new angel investors need to think about is, how much time do they have? And if it's limited, as it is for most people that are still working, that where do you want to spend the time? So one of the things that I think really individuals can choose is, do you want to put more of your time into the investment side? So it's looking at deal flow, participating in deal activities, or do you want to spend a lot of your time on working in the community, mentoring entrepreneurs, kind of helping those businesses get ready and position themselves for funding? So the last thing I just want to quickly mention is how I got to Golden Seeds. So when I moved to Arizona in 2011, We founded a women's professional network. I was a chapter of a national organization called 85 Broads, which was then kind of renamed as Elevate in 2014. Where our focus was on women entrepreneurs and access to capital. So we did programming over a number of years, really working these topics on both the entrepreneur and the investor side. In 2015, Loretta McCarthy, who's the managing partner of Golden Seeds, came and hosted a program for us. And the topic was really about, what are the different challenges of women-led companies who were raising capital in different parts of the life sciences sector. It was an amazing program. One of our panelists, Heidi Janeka, has since joined Golden Seeds, which was wonderful. But what happened is after a couple of years of really talking about this and doing educational programs, we decided to be part of the solution. So a group of us, many of us that knew each other through Elevate, got together and decided to form an Arizona chapter of Golden Seeds. So we launched at the end of 2019, and we're thrilled to collaborate and be partners with groups like Desert Angels and ATI, because we totally believe that there's more we can do together, and we're happy to support. So thank you.
All right, Kathy, thank you. And I'm sure we'll hear more about Golden Seeds later on today too. Yeah, thank you. Tammy Mclead, you're up next.
Thanks again, Joanne. And it's impressive to follow Alicia and Kathy. So thanks for being here, both of you. My own story is pretty simple compared to theirs. And that is just that I am absolutely fascinated with entrepreneurs. I always have been. I love the energy. I love the drive. I love just the excitement that I find in working with entrepreneurs. I've had the great fortune in my career to work alongside a serial entrepreneur through several startups and exits, and I just always derived so much from those rich experiences. I like to hear their stories. I like to help them, and consistently throughout my career, I've found myself in a variety of really different settings, but able to still connect with and support entrepreneurs. So from working in a startup, I went on to graduate school and got to participate in the Wharton Small Business Development Center, where I held a portfolio of 10 to 30 entrepreneurs at any given time in all stages of crisis or growth or whatever you wanted to call. So I got to see just a really great range of companies. I went on to work at Arizona Public Service, where I was vice president over an organization that included economic development. So we did a lot of entrepreneurship type support programs and had our very own trainings, which was just terrific. And now at the Flynn Foundation, we call them biopreneurs that we support, which are life science entrepreneurs that are working here in Arizona, all different stages. We run a program every year where we select 6 or 7 companies to come in and work with us. I see Marie Wesselhoff on this call. I saw Nanan Rusa a little earlier, not in my squares right now, but a couple of entrepreneurs that we've had the great fortune of supporting and working with. And I think it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago that I was trying to think about how to get a little bit more involved. I had gone through the sort of membership lists of different angel groups that were operating in Arizona at that time, and there just weren't a lot of women. There were a few, but not many. And so I got hold of Sue Preston's groundbreaking work that she did for the Kauffman Foundation on starting an angel group. And I thought, wow, this seems like maybe something that should happen. Maybe this should happen around women. During that time, I had a great long conversation with Loretta McCarthy of Golden Seeds. And then, I, through a terrific, enlightening conversation with Jim Golka, really learned about the work that he was doing to be more inclusive in angel investing. And it seemed, with my transition to Flynn, that the best thing to do was really to just be supportive of these angel groups and to help them accomplish their goals in diversity and inclusion, and specifically to include more women as angel investors. So we've been a huge proponent of offerings just like this one, and really want to see more women and people of color in as investors. So we're agnostic in terms of Angel Group, really. If people come away and want to join, we're not going to make recommendations to join this one or join that one, because we think that everybody can find something that fits what they want to do. And I have really enjoyed being part of ATI and part of Desert Angels. My own personal angel investing is really directed at women-led businesses. That's been my pattern over the last several years. And my downfall is that I quite often fall in love with the business over and over and over again. And so what I really value about angel investment and the way that it works is that I hear the perspectives of others who hold me back. and that's important, because I've made some serious mistakes early on that I definitely don't want to repeat. And it was because of that, of falling in love too early, moving too fast, and frankly, not asking the right questions. And it would have been apparent early on. So I find angel investing a really great way to govern my own process. And I also take great delight in participating with Desert Angels Sidecar Fund because of what I think Kathy just said around time. And sometimes when I'm limited on time, I find that that is a terrific way to get involved with the organization. That participating in Sidecar takes out a little bit of the risk and gives a broad range of companies to participate with. So I've been grateful about those things. And I think that's it, Joanne.
All right, thank you, Tammy. That was great. Thank you. Our next presenter is Aca.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm so excited to be here today and to listen to the amazing story from Alicia, Kathy, and Tammy. Obviously, it looks like each one of us got into angel investing in our own way, and I'm happy to share my story today with everyone. And actually, this ties back to the Desert Angels and my connection with the group. I think I got into angel investing in 2011, and how I got started was when I was enrolled in the MBA program at Eller. The Desert Angel had an opportunity for an intern to do due diligence for the group on the investment opportunities, and I got the opportunity to be selected for that position. Got a chance to interact with several companies, 10 or 12 companies through the whole year, and really got very excited and fell in love with the process and the innovation and technology. And I was fortunate enough to actually meet my current employer, who's a member of the Desert Angels in the process. And they brought me into their company to start a fund to diversify their investment. So my company, the fund that I'm currently working for is DBI Equity Partners. It's a venture capital investment arm of a family office called Diamond Ventures, based in Tucson, Arizona. Diamond Venture has been around for over 30 years and traditionally been in real estate. They have a large portfolio of land and commercial real estate holdings. Mr. Diamond wanted to diversify his portfolio and into technology investing, and that's gave birth to DBI Equity Partners. So the fund has been around for we are in the third year of our investment period today, as of today. And what we are investing in is in technology, early stage opportunities, companies. We typically seek to be the Series A investor in early stage companies. And we invest across the globe. We currently have 8 portfolio companies. We have one in Tucson, a couple in Boston, in the Bay Area, and also in Ireland. And I think we have a couple of exits out of Canada as well. So really, we are not geographically constrained, just go where the opportunities really present themselves. The areas that we typically invest in and that currently in my portfolio right now is in data storage, LiDAR, which is in autonomous vehicles, no code mobile application, app wrapping, and that's really what our sweet spot has been. We also invest together with other family offices as well, and so I think Kathy brought up a point that part of the process sometimes has to do with raising capital for the fund, and my fund is a little different from a traditional venture capital fund in the sense that we invest the principal family capital, which is from the family office. So that's really the brief introductions about my fund, and my role at the company is to really quarterback the due diligence process, deal negotiation, term sheet structuring, the whole 9 yards of investing, and occasionally taking board seat as well, and helping companies to build the team, the company, and grow. So I guess that, to Joanne's point about providing a couple of examples about, my best and worst experience, and because, I'm a practitioner in the area, which is what I do every day. I think I can probably share a little bit of experience in a couple of portfolio companies that we have. One of the best experience I recently have is in our investment in a company called Luminar Technologies. It has a technology in long-range LiDAR in the autonomous vehicle space. We invested in the company as an early-stage investor, and if there's anything to be said about due diligence, it's I guess my advice to any new angel investor or existing angel investor is really to take your time and spend your time to do due diligence. LiDAR was a very exciting and burgeoning space. When I did the due diligence on the company and the space, there was over 100 early stage companies that was working on the technology, and interviewing the companies, trying to parcel through the data and understand who's the leader, what their competitive advantage are, and whether they are defensible. That's really has a lot to do with reading and talking to different participants in the space. So the company was actually went public through a special purpose acquisition company, a SPAC, which probably on the news a lot these days, last December. And we're probably going to be about, at the end, we're approaching the end of our lockup period. So that's very exciting for us. And the company is currently traded at 6 billion market cap. So that was probably one of the, I think that kind of opens up my eyes and other investors' eyes about the vast potential return opportunity of being an early stage investor. Probably one of the worst experience that I have, has to do with obviously investing in a company that where we believe the technology was really top of the field, but the management team is not really the right management team to take the company to the next phase. And that probably, probably a very recurring theme that you can, probably recognize in the pattern of your investment. The management team is really what makes or breaks your investment opportunities. So that's what I have, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have.
All right, thank you, Nak. That was great. And I would just like to give her a shout out because of all the people I've ever seen on stage judge competitions or do due diligence for potential investment opportunities. Nak, hands down, completely blows the rest of us out of water. She's the only one I've ever seen stump people with questions about their own company and their own markets and industries. So when she says due diligence, it gives a whole different meaning to the word. So thanks, Nak. It's delightful to have you here and see you again. So I'm excited to welcome our fifth presenter, is Eli Vlasquez. He's going to talk a little bit about his own story for about 5 minutes. And then I've also asked him to tell us a little bit about what's happening with the Angel Capital Association and the diversity inclusion work that he's doing there. And he'll have another 5 or 10 minutes to talk about his ACA work. So Eli, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to let you talk about your own story, and then straight from there, you can go right into the Angel Capital Association. Sound good?
Awesome. Yep, perfect. So
Thanks.
thank you, Joanne. And thank you, Desert Angels, for the invite. Greetings from Western Massachusetts, where we got a nice 7 inches of snow this morning. Don't know how that happens in the middle of spring, but it's only in Massachusetts. I'm originally from El Paso, went to school in Boston, ended up in Huntington Beach, working as an engineer and then subsequently as an IP lawyer. Then I ended up back in El Paso, building out the innovation ecosystem there in the early 2000s. And that's when I started managing the Camino Real Angels. And what was interesting there was the first time I attended the group, I just noticed everybody was having a lot of fun. You know, dinner, wine, deals. I mean, it was a lot of fun. But as I looked around, nobody looked like me, right? In a population of 80% Hispanic, not a single member was Hispanic, all older white male, one woman who eventually dropped out. Subsequently, I went on to co-found the Lubbock Angel Network in Lubbock, Texas, when I was building the innovation ecosystem there. Started another group there. Nobody looked like me there either, 80% white population. So then you would think the metrics would skew, and they did. No blacks, no Hispanics, no allies, one woman, and she too dropped out. So nonetheless, I said, look, there's obviously a there. There's like-minded individuals. We want to help entrepreneurs. We want to help startups, but we're missing a major component of diversity, right? There's a lot of folks like me who want to get in on this. And that was one of the big things that was the driver for me is I also want to participate. I also want to have fun. I also want returns on deals. And so slowly but surely started building my career to the point where I could start making investments. Fast forward to my time now where I get recruited back to Massachusetts to lead up an organization's program run by we had a contract from the State Department to build angel and investor networks in other countries. I dragged Alicia down to Mexico porque habla español. So we had a great time down there. But we were gallivanting in Indonesia, Malaysia, Egypt, Colombia, trying to facilitate these networks, right, and get them moving. And then that nagging thought that I had, you know, all these years was, if we can build an angel group in Alexandria, Egypt, with hardly any resources and these very diverse, you know, communities, surely we can figure out how to do this in the U.S. So I went back. And me and a colleague, his name's Sammer, and he's now chief of staff at Black VC. We said, let's just assess the landscape. Let's just go figure out who's doing what. Let's not go out there and try to build a network or a fund. Let's just do analysis. So we started doing a lot of research, just collecting data, talking to people, working with organizations, learning a lot. And over time, we started evolving the model of what is now the Investors of Color Network. And at the time we were like, do we call ourselves an angel group? Is it a VC? Is it a fund? What is it? It's nothing. It's a network of investors of color. So that's why it's called the Investors of Color Network. So go to investorsofcolor.com and you'll see who we are. But we represent a coalition of about 600 individuals, funds, family offices, private equity, athletes, media, corporate, that represent groups that look like us. So when you get on our calls, it looks like us. It looks very different, right? It looks very unique. And now we're engaging a whole sub-segment and a new segment of other groups, what I'll call the Main Street groups, right? Folks that have been around for years are saying, Eli, I want to also engage with investors of color. Well, you can come and join and hang out, and ultimately what we're doing is we are providing 3 different things. One, community, right? So we want to build that ecosystem that looks like us, is built by us. That's a very critical component, that it's also built by us. It's not just enough that we get invited. we're also inviting you to our house. Our barbecue is good too, so come and eat at our house and sit at our table as well. 2, we have access to some phenomenal deals that our groups would normally not have access to because they lack those networks. So we are able to bring in super high caliber deals. One particular company that came through our network subsequently got funded by the NBA, Mark Cuban, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul. We have companies there from Serena Williams. We have companies there from folks that you would recognize from television and sports and others. And so it brings out a lot of excitement around rallying around the entrepreneur. So 2 is access to those quality deals. And then 3 is participation. So we're able to facilitate a mechanism through SPVs to enable folks that can only write $5,000 or $10,000 checks, and that's okay, to be able to get in on deals. But we also have folks that can write bigger checks towards that. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish within the Investors of Color Network. You know, it's a come one, come all type of entity. No fees, no dues yet, but we reserve the right to charge later. So I have that in the recording. So that's who we are. So I want to transition now quickly over into the ACA initiatives. My other hat is I'm on the board of the Angel Capital Association. I serve on various committees and initiatives within the organization, but I'm also the board champion for the diversity initiatives there. And I want to share a little bit of what I was talking about earlier that is helping to drive what we're trying to accomplish within the ACA. So what we have here is just a high level view of the findings that we've uncovered just in 2020. We saw this massive increase of new groups, right, that were launching. And this was before George Floyd and before all of the racial injustice initiatives and activities that sparked in mid-2000 of last year, 2020. So these are groups that we've either helped start or supported or know of or connected. I ran out of room because there's just so many more that are out there. And so that what we uncovered is that they just have so many needs and gaps in what they're trying to accomplish. So again, we have approximately 600 in the network. We know who they are. There's probably 90 to 95% of them that we know of, probably personally, or we can know how to get to them pretty quickly. And what we learned is there's a lot of young, inexperienced, and massively disjointed groups, sometimes purposely. There's a lot of competition in the space, and people are fighting for attention. People are fighting for dollars. So there's a lot of, and some of it is also cultural. You know, people don't want to work together. So it kind of creates a pretty messy environment. We learned that there's a lack of high net worth and LP networks. Or, you know, I didn't grow up with my family talking about, you know, their access to LPs and the venture funds that they were working on. So there's massive disconnect, and they're not coming from Ivy League schools. They also generally get a one and done kind of investment. It's usually going to be a family office, a rich family friend who says, or a corporation that says, I'll stroke you a check. So there's a lot of one and done funds. There's also a lot of imposter funds. I see a lot of groups that call themselves XYZ Capital or XYZ Ventures, but underneath it all, it's just a consulting company, or it's a startup studio, or it's an accelerator, and there's no checks to be written. So it confuses the founder. It confuses the syndicates, right? You don't even know if they have money to bear. Usually what you hear is, I'm raising a $15 million fund. How much have you raised? I have $5 million soft circled. How much do you have in the bank? Nothing. So if you're a founder, you just spent 2 or 3 weeks just to discover that. So we're trying to cut through the smoke and mirrors and trying to get down to who's really vetted within the networks. Again, a race for headlines and a race for corporate sponsors makes it very competitive. And then with respect to the ACA, it's either an unknown or entity or an undesired affiliation, because people don't want, they're like, frankly, it's the old rich white club, and I don't want to be part of that. So we're trying to figure out how to demystify and try to cut through all that so that the ACA can be a good steward towards that. So what we have done and what I'm leading is a task force within the ACA. And these are the major thrusts within the organization. So I'm aligning the things that we do and the value propositions that we offer and the products that we're also offer to be able to tailor them to communities of color, to investors of color. Leadership from the inside, leadership on the outside. How do we engage new members? How do we engage new individuals out there in the ecosystem? There's a massive gap around research and data. There's a little bit here and there. There's a lot around venture, but a lot missing in the angel space. And predominantly you understand that because angels tend to be a lot more close and private and localized. So it's hard to extract that data just generally, let alone, you know, when it comes to demographics. We'll be working on different partnerships with some of the organizations that I mentioned earlier: Black VC, Harlem Capital, Diversity VC, VC Include, Venture Forward. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of them that we want to slowly start building these trusted relationships. We'll also build a coalition of education partners. ACA offers the Angel University, but there's a lot of other organizations that are out there doing some great work. We did a program with Black VC and their Black Venture Institute to get emerging venture managers on board, because they'll also end up becoming angels at some point. When it comes to advocacy, we're going to be focused a lot on the SEC requirements, a lot of what a good friend of mine, Mariah Lichtenstern, is calling investor redlining, and how the SEC has defined their policies to redline similar to the way that they redlined around financing and real estate. So we're addressing some of those issues. We want to syndicate. You know, we're using our platform now as a mechanism, but we want to broaden that and leverage the ACA platform. And of course, marketing and membership. How do we make sure that we tell the story that attracts new investors of color? There's a lot of groups that are super, super young, both not only in age, but also in membership age. So we want to make sure that we engage them in that effort. So I'm leading that initiative. I'm starting with a small group, and then slowly but surely going to be rolling out that task force. So there'll be other calls for volunteers over time. So with that, that's all I got.
Wow, thank you. That was really helpful. And I'll invite participants, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box. But I have, Eli, just following your last discussion, I have a couple of questions for you. Does ACA have any upcoming events tied to DEI that our members should be aware of?
Let me turn that over to Alicia.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, but the Founders of Color Showcase is the day before the annual event, but it's a free event. You can register on the ACA website, or the one I'm about to put in the put in the chat, and it's we're gonna have 5 or 6 founders of color present that are raising capital right now, and we're trying to showcase these opportunities to increase the pipeline of diverse founders for investors. So
that's perfect, and that is going to be May 3rd, May 2nd, May 3rd.
May 3rd.
Fantastic. Thank you for putting the link in. And as a reminder, the investors on this call that are members of at least Desert Angels and ATI, and I'm not sure about Golden Seeds, but you are also ACA members, and so you'd have access to participate in those events. And the second comment I have for you, Eli, you'd asked me for an introduction to Ashley Rusa, who is actually on the call right now, so hopefully you guys can connect in the chat box. She's doing a pretty cool initiative she'll talk about later on today with Black Friday here in Arizona. So she's nodding, so good. Glad that you guys were able to connect. So what other questions do we have for our panelists from the audience?
Yeah, I'll throw it in. This is David Friedman. I'm president of Tech Coast Angels in Orange County. I'm trying to expand our membership to include more women and also people of color. In Orange County, which is, pretty lily white, unfortunately, it's kind of hard to find the right group. San Diego's been more fortunate, so has LA. So the question to Eli is, how would you suggest us going about trying to recruit more people so we have a more diverse membership? We've been very fortunate on the other side, on the entrepreneur side, to have lots of women be our founders and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. And so I would turn it the other way around. I would say, come to our group And then we're going to start helping you make those connections. There's several groups in San Diego, Los Angeles, Northern California that are doing some great work. One of the key initiatives, though, is you're going to have to really expand your geographic reach and be very open. So you're going to have to really be amenable to taking in groups from all over the place because they're very, very disaggregated. So you want to be able to cater to them. And so that's definitely one component of it. The second one literally like just slipped my mind as I was about to. Oh, the second thing is this is what I've done. I have never lacked. Every week at the end of the week, I look back. There's at least 5 to 7 groups and at least 10 deals that I look at. Founders of color. I take the cold call. I take the cold pitch and I put it on LinkedIn. I'm looking for this, and you're gonna get it. So you're gonna have to kind of lower kind of this notion of the warm intro and really say, look, I'm just going to be open to meeting people and building these relationships because it's going to take a lot more than just a single invite. It's going to take conversation after conversation after conversation to build those relationships.
All right, fair point.
All right, thank you. And I think that actually puts us close to time. If the audience has any questions for our presenters, you're welcome to post them in the chat box. And we will actually follow up with you. So we'll send your questions to the presenters and help you close the loop. So I'm going to share my screen again here. All right, and I'd like to say thank you again to all of our investors for giving really great insights, advice, and tips, and for sharing your stories. We really do appreciate it. And Eli, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sorry to hear that you have 7 inches of snow outside, although that's a little exciting. So I hope you have time to enjoy it this weekend. And we are now going to move into a very brief 1 minute, 30-second coffee break. And you'll see the coffee mug appear throughout the slides when and if we have a chance to take a break to help refresh your minds, take a quick bio break. And we will resume here in 1 minute, talking with both Desert Angels and Arizona Tech Investor on the process of angel investing. So thank you.